And welcome once again to InRetroSpection, the show where we review the retro today. I am Joshua Caleb, and joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Zack Williamson.
There are people inside this box. Help me get out. Please help me get out.
Yeah, I think he's going for the John Strickland approach of doing a random quote each show.
No, I'm stuck inside this damn box and I can't figure out how to get out.
Well, also joining us, returning to talk about our epic series, is Joel Brodsky.
Hi there.
And our third guest is... Wait a second. Who's this guy? Who let him in here? Where's Pixel Man?
I have talked to my doctor, and he has solved my pixel problem. I am now much higher resolution.
Yeah, you're in HD and you even have depth. Wow.
You know, we need to get sponsors so we can hire security so we don't let people like him in here. And me. And Joel. Yeah, never mind. If we got security, none of us would be on the show.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Oh, I want to congratulate Joel on that epic beard. This is the first time I've seen that beard, so I want to congratulate you on that awesome beard.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Alright, well, today we are going back to our platforming saga and to covering a awesome platformer in series that's one of my personal favorites, and also happens to be the 25th anniversary this year.
Wow.
Happy birthday!
Which would of course be Sonic the Hedgehog.
I thought that was so cool that they had the actual word Sega being played.
Yeah, that was always sort of really cool. It sort of reminded me of when the PlayStation came out. They had that cool little PlayStation intro.
Like, there's not many games that actually had, voices. It was mostly just little sound effects and blips, but now it said Sega. I was like, whoa,
and
technology.
I think Sonic was one of the only ones that did that. There were a couple others that did the Sega thing, but Sonic was one of the primary ones that did that.
I was impressed.
Yeah, well, yeah, so Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Genesis was quite an impressive game.
I thought it was. I gotta say, it's for its time. I mean, you gotta think, Sonic kind of beat the Super NES to the punch, really.
Oh, yeah. Well, then that was part of their whole ad campaign. Was at the time Nintendo only had the NES, which was an 8-bit
Yeah.
system, and then Sega comes out with the Genesis, which is this high-powered 16-bit system.
And nobody remembers the Sega Master System, so it works out well for them.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
as far as most people are concerned, the Genesis was their first console.
Well, yeah, they
Yep.
even called it the Genesis. Well, it was the Mega Drive in Japan, but in the US, it was the Genesis.
Mega Drive.
Remember, it took me 2 hours to get past this first level the first time.
The bonus stages.
I remember if you turned on the developer features, there was actually you could start placing items, and if you did it inside the special stage, you could go back. You could like place yourself outside of the special stage, and then you'd fly out in the middle of nowhere, and then there's just like random on the edges of the screen.
Yeah, I
Sounds pretty
remember.
awesome.
I remember that developer mode. That was really cool. Because then I would always do the thing where I would punch the button. I would turn into a ring. I would move the ring over to where the Chaos Emerald was, and replace myself, and instantly get the Chaos Emerald every time.
You cheater.
Oh yeah, I cheat a lot on these Sonic games.
I remember back in was it middle school. I didn't have a Sega Genesis myself, and I used to go over to my friend's house. One of the main reasons I was to go over there is because he had a Genesis system, and I'd play Sonic the Hedgehog, and I loved the music. That's one of the things I remembered is not only enjoying the game, but the music was sweet.
Yeah, it had a really cool soundtrack.
The thing for me about this game was that everything else I had ever played was completely slow in comparison to this game.
Well, yeah, that's basically. This was everything that made Mario great, but added speed.
It was a quantum leap from everything else that I had played, and I go back to Pong, so
It was everything Mario did plus speed and way too many adorable frickin' animals.
Oh,
There were like
yeah.
little bunny rabbits everywhere, man. Like
Bunny
these little
rabbits,
tiny-
squirrels, little birds.
Oh yeah, the little birds would flutter away. It's like, my God, they've packed so much cute into such a small cartridge.
see those hand motions there, Zack.
Like, they packed so much cute into such a small cartridge.
All right, what? Anything else anyone wanted to mention about this one, other than the fact that it's totally awesome and is still awesome even now?
No, I'm good. I still getting over how much cuteness was in that frame.
I know. It's incredible.
I'm glad we had that that measurement to
So much
see
cute.
exactly how wide it was.
I can't believe it's 25 years. I was just going into high school, I guess, when this came out.
Yeah, it was 91,
Oh, was it 91?
I think.
That would only be 19 years.
20 years.
Well, yeah, so this is the part where it gets a little tricky. This game was actually June 23rd, 91. Is the release date for this game. Which would come out to, so that'd be 20 years now, right? Not 25.
Correct.
So
I
yeah,
was like 8 years old then.
I was graduating this year.
all right. Well, now moving along, our next game. I tried to put these in somewhat chronological order, but some of it was a little tough. The next one we have is essentially the same game, but this was for the Master System and Game Gear, Sega's 8-bit console and handheld.
a color handheld. Man, you know,
Yeah, I know that you're playing the
you
black
look
and white Game Boy, and then you have the Game Gear.
you look back on it now, and you see now the three major contenders are Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft. And it's like Nintendo is a big one still, but Sega was too ahead of their time, I think.
Yeah, I think they were. Reading lots of different articles on the fall of Sega, and it was that they were too ahead of their time, and the sort of disconnect between their Japan office and their U.S. office. There were some disagreements and political stuff with that kind of broke things down. But yeah, I mean, this thing is a full 8-bit system. I would actually argue this is better than the NES,
Oh, absolutely.
which is also an 8-bit
Absolutely.
system. And this thing was Sega's first major home console, but they also managed to pack this thing into a handheld.
Did any of you guys have Game Gear?
I did.
No.
I didn't. I had two Genesis, but no Game Gear. Go figure.
Trying to
I
remember.
had two
had-
Game Boys and no Game Gear.
You have a pick of the Game Gear? I can't remember what that looked like.
Oh, it was huge.
Yeah,
Game Gear was like a black, wide
Brick.
box, heavy.
yeah, it was enormous.
But it was fun. It ate up batteries.
Big as my head is
Oh,
now.
It was fun.
Yeah, that thing ate batteries for breakfast.
But it was worth it. You got a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
a lot of Sega out of that.
You did get a lot of Sega out of that.
I'll see if I can
And I
find
think
a
it even
picture.
said Sega too at the beginning of it, if I remember
Yep,
correctly.
I think it did. It was a little more distorted, you know.
But they still somehow pulled it off.
Uh-huh. But yeah, the Sonic the Hedgehog for the Master System and Game Gear was actually a quite different game from the Genesis version. I think the levels were similar, but they're actually, I think there's a couple levels that weren't in the Genesis version. Like there was a bridge level and the jungle level, and so it wasn't a direct port.
hmm
Okay, well, I'm having no luck with pictures. I keep getting 404'd, but anyway. So, okay, moving on. I think the next game is actually another Master System Game Gear game. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was even less of a port than the Genesis version. And I think this actually came before the Genesis version. So this is like this is the first time Tails ever appeared in a Sonic game.
Don't think I've seen this one.
Yeah, I used to have it. It was hard. I mean, the first one was hard enough, but this one I couldn't even figure out how to get past the boss in the first level. There's a weird trick to it where you actually didn't try
Wait a minute. This looks completely familiar. Maybe
This was
when
the
I had
evil. This was the evil one for the Game Gear.
Yes. 'Cause, like, the first boss, you don't even try to attack it. You just have to, you have to avoid basically what the boss is throwing at you, and eventually he'll destroy himself.
Now, you have to hope and pray is what you have to do.
Yeah, because you're on like a sloped incline and it's throwing rocks at you, and trying to control Sonic in a precise way on a sloped incline was virtually impossible.
I think when I had my Game Gear, it was this one, not the first one, because this one looks much more familiar to me than the first one did.
Yeah, I think I had
Like-
both of them, but this one was insane, and I I finally going back and playing it. I did get past the first boss, but then the second level, I got stuck on another spot because there's this stupid hang gliding section that
Oh, the hang gliding. Yes, it's all coming back to me.
Evil.
Yeah, I was trying every different way to control it, and I still ended up just plummeting into nothingness.
Man. Hang gliding, yeah. Yeah, I remember that being hard as hell.
Yeah,
it was bad, man.
Oh,
this is the evil Sonic game.
It is.
bringing back so many memories.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Alright, so should we cruise on past this and hit the next one, the Genesis one, which is probably one of the most popular
Of all time.
Woohoo! Sega.
It was so cool the way he runs in.
I know.
And then there's like stars, and then there's Sonic, and oh my god, there's this little guy with these tails. What are they gonna call him?
Well, yeah, and it's actually his real name is actually kind of a cute little play on words. Miles Prower.
Now, is this the one with the racetrack?
Racetrack in the
Oh,
special.
for the special stage?
Yeah, where they're going up and around and...
Yeah,
Yeah.
where you're in the little tube and you go around and the. Yeah, this is that one.
Okay.
This is probably the one I played the most.
Oh yeah. I'd spend quite a lot of time just in the casino act zone trying to get tons and tons of coins, playing that little pinball area.
You gambler, you. I think that this was also the first one to introduce a two-player co-op mode, which is sort of neat. You could actually have a second player hop in and control Tails, if you could manage to keep up with Sonic, that is.
It was also the first one where the Chaos Emeralds, not only did you get 7 instead of 6, but you could actually do stuff with them.
Yeah, you collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds, and this is one thing I'm sort of miss about some of the newer Sonic games is, in this one, collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds gives you a super cool power-up that you can use whenever you want. So after you get all seven of them, when you're in any stage, if you collect 50 rings and then when you jump, you transformed into Super Sonic, which goes all about. He gets a even more spiky hairdo, turns yellow, jumps about 3 times as high, and runs about 10 times as fast. Plus, he's invincible.
You can get through any level in about 12 seconds.
If you can control him, yes.
Yeah, that's the trick.
When you're moving at about 900 miles per hour, it becomes
It's like he becomes this ball of raw energy, and he just explodes.
Yeah, and when you're going so fast, he actually starts floating above the ground, and there's these energy sparks flying off him, and it's pretty cool.
Was this also the, Oh, Joel's talking?
I was just saying, I really need to get this game. I remember... I love this part. I don't know why.
Yeah, this one even had there was an actual separate 2-player mode where you could race each other to a level or race to collect rings in this one. Which was kind of a trick because in the special stage when you have 2 people, whenever you jump, when one person jumps, you switch places in the front or the back. So when you're doing the 2-player co-op, obviously the person in the front is going to get all the rings. So it was a constant contest of both you sort of jumping back and forth trying to stay ahead of each other to collect all the rings.
Oh, yeah. I think this was the first game to introduce the mechanic when you duck, you could press the jump button to speed
Yes, yeah,
forward.
that's right. This is the first one to introduce the spin dash, where you could actually rev up in a little ball and then speed forward to like crash through obstacles or dash up a hill or something.
Will I go through those corkscrews?
Yeah.
I got a bug flying around my room. I want to kill it.
Yeah, is it a robot bug, like a robot buzzer?
A robot. Hopefully not, but I wouldn't know if it was, would I? More reason to kill it. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep, here's Supersonic.
Oh, look at him.
Oh, there he is.
He gets even more extreme as the series goes on. It's so
Uh-huh.
awesome.
Yeah, so you watch, you get 50 rings. And boom. But there is a catch to being supersonic. Is
If
that
you fall down a hole, you still die.
well, there's that, but there's also your rings will start to decrease. Like every second, you'll lose one ring. So you have to keep collecting rings, otherwise if you get down to 0 rings, then you become regular Sonic and you have no rings.
That was always fun if you know, in the level with enough rings and you jumped up in the air, he would just like... He
Oh
would
yeah,
try to
that
transform, and then he would just kind of stand there and walk in place.
yeah,
Yay,
a little
bugs.
glitch. All right, well, have we gone through enough awesomeness of this one?
I think we
want
need
more
more
awesome.
awesomeness.
Well, this is a, what is your top rating? Something to do with the...
Retro hot dish.
Okay, there you go.
But this
All
one
right.
definitely gets the prestigious retro hot dish. And if you want to actually play this now, you can get it on the Wii, the Xbox, the PlayStation 3, the PC.
You can
Possibly,
get it pretty much everywhere.
yeah. This is probably the one Sonic game that you can literally get just about everywhere. Alright, next up we have Sonic Chaos. This is another Game Gear Master System game. I think this is the first game where you can actually select Tails as a playable character, which is sort of neat because then you can actually fly. I think you can fly in this one. And fly.
Well, you
through
could fly,
levels.
and as a co-op in 2, you could fly as Tails.
No, you couldn't. They didn't introduce that until 3. If you're playing the second player on Sonic 2, you couldn't
that's
actually.
right. It wasn't. That's
you
right.
couldn't
Okay.
manually fly. It
What?
was only when you got lost somewhere back behind the level, Tails would automatically catch up, and he would fly. But you couldn't actually fly yourself.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
I believe I can fly.
I believe I can touch the sky.
I think about it every night and day.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah, you guys lost me. Anyway, this one was sort of a weird Sonic game because, for one, it was probably the shortest and easiest of all the ones I've played. I think I managed to actually finish the entire game in 1 hour. Which I normally don't finish games nearly that fast.
So I said this was on the Game Gear Master System?
Yep. Though there was one catch. I managed to finish it in an hour, but I didn't know how to collect the Chaos Emeralds. So after I finished the game, defeated Robotnik, Sonic is chasing after Robotnik, he's got the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic trips, falls, Eggman gets away, and it says, try again.
That fat bastard.
Oops.
So now I gotta play the entire game all over again, this time trying to collect the Chaos Emeralds.
And how did you collect the Chaos Emeralds?
I don't know, I still haven't collected one yet. Supposedly, when you're in this little flying... Yeah, after you collect 100 rings in any level, then it will automatically transport you to this little flying stage, and you have to fly around, and somewhere in that stage, there's a Chaos Emerald hiding.
And that's why no one likes Sonic Chaos.
Yeah, and then you have like 60 seconds to find it in this massive blue space. Oh, I think he found it.
Oh, yeah. Just saw it go by.
Yeah, so that's why when I did, I had no idea what I was doing, so I blazed through the entire game in about an hour and said, try again.
Yeah, I can see that being frustrating.
Yeah, it's definitely not my favorite one. And most of the bosses are pretty dead simple, too, so... This is probably the one that's aged less gracefully than the others.
Turquoise Hill Zone.
Yeah, everyone has to be some kind of green hill something. Whether turquoise, neo, emerald. Okay, well, should we go to one of my personal favorites for one of Sega's many, many Genesis add-ons? Sonic CD for the Sega CD.
Oh, the
Whoa.
Sega CD.
So I actually never had a Sega CD. I wanted one.
I know, man. The Sega CD was like the one accessory that we all wanted and never got.
Yeah,
Look at those cloud graphics.
yeah, I know. You got the enhanced graphics power plus this one is the soundtrack is amazing because it has this new CD quality sound that the Sega CD got since it actually used CDs. Plus this one also had the kind of neat mechanic of time travel, which I'm not a huge fan of time travel, but it was sort of interesting. There were signposts that either said past or future, and if you touch one of those, and then if you maintain a top speed for a certain amount of time, you would actually warp to a future or past version of the level. That actually changed the entire theme.
It would be the same level, just like different graphics.
Yeah, it altered the level, the graphics theme. Like if this one you go to the future and it's all this robotic-sized, dystopian, broken down level. But if you go to the past, then everything's sort of green and shiny and all pretty. And depending on how you did in each level, you would say Sonic made a good future or something. So it sort of affected your progression through the levels. Though oddly enough, this one used a lot of the same graphics from the original Sonic the Hedgehog for the Genesis. They didn't use the Genesis. It was a little weird. But it was definitely a pretty cool game. I think I played it on the computer because they eventually released it on the PC. And I listened to the soundtrack all the time.
Got it jamming in your car.
If I had a car, I have it jammed in my computer.
Okay.
Oh, and this is also the one where they introduce the infamous Amy the Hedgehog.
Ooh, Sonic's got a girlfriend.
If you can call it that. She was sort of his self-proclaimed girlfriend.
Was that the pink girl that's like in the cartoons and stuff?
Yeah, that's the penguin in the
Yes.
cartoon.
Oh
stuff.
jeez.
You first see her in like the second area or something. You go along, and all of a sudden she sort of appears and then grabs onto you, and you have to like jump to get free of her. And she just
Sort
starts
of clinging in.
Yeah, she just starts following you around until she gets captured by another new character introduced in this game, Metal Sonic. So Mario had his evil twin Wario, and Sonic has Metal Sonic.
Well, Metal Sonic was in. Well, I guess it was. There was the Robo Sonic from Sonic 2 at the end.
I think
Oh
that's the
yeah,
one I remember.
that's true. That you had that. It was completely different in this game, though. You got a complete makeover.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Sonic, the Metal Sonic. Oh yeah, see there now there's Amy, and here comes Metal Sonic.
Oh
I
my
like to think
God.
of him as Mecha Sonic.
I think he actually is called that. Depending on the game or the series you watch, it's either metal or mecha or something.
Or Meta something.
Yeah, a metallic version of Sonic.
Mecha Godzilla.
That's actually probably what he was in Sonic 2, because he was a lot bigger in Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Mm-hmm.
This one, he's more of Sonic's size. And this we had that cool... Sonic got a cool new running animation in this one. His feet do the little figure 8 thing.
Oh yeah, that's
He's
right.
got a bigger stride.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't keep that.
It's because he had a girlfriend.
Did he get tired of her or something? Because I think all the Sonic games since then, he has kept his little round foot circle thing. I think this is the
Can you
only...
imagine being Sonic and going to hang out with Tails after you get done with the level? And it's like, so why are you running so funny, Sonic? Or because you gotta go catch your girlfriend?
Don't emasculate him.
Well, I mean, let's face it, he was running because he had a girlfriend.
Maybe he was running to get to the girl.
He's not Mario.
Well, actually, he was. They added that Mario aspect in this one. Because not only did you have to save the world, but you also had to save your girlfriend.
Yeah, and you
Maybe
see
he
how-
was two-timing. He was a stud.
That's actually entirely possible, now that I think of some of the newer games.
He was hot stuff.
Alright.
His only problem was he was a little too fast.
Boy, talk about playing hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah, hard enough to keep up with him, let alone catch him. Alright, so we move on to the next... Onto the
I
third
think the
game.
next two actually kind of go together.
Yes, they do. Let's see, where is it? Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the direct sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis. And it does go into the game after this. But this one was sort of cool, and other than the enhanced graphics and sound and whatnot. But this added a save feature that That is the one thing I've always hated about retro games. That is probably my biggest beef with old games, is that you can never save them. And I never had time to go through the entire 24 zones or whatever it was of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in one sitting. So yeah, the save feature was invaluable. Even if it was a relatively primitive one, in that it only saved your current zone. So if you were to load it, if you were like at the final boss of the zone and you quit and came back, you'd have to start at the beginning of that zone.
Yeah, but at least you didn't have to start at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, so it was something. Much more than we had previously.
And the special stages in this game are trippy, man.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
We're running around those weird globe, collecting all these spheres. I remember it was a lot harder than the ones in Sonic 2.
It was a lot harder because you had to enclose blue spheres by converting them to red spheres. If you ran into the red spheres, then the special stage was over. And then
There were bumpers.
if you screwed up and got like one off, you'd miss the perfect, and it was such a pain.
Yeah, and you had those bumpers that, especially when the blue spheres were, some of the later ones, the blue spheres would weave in between these bumpers. So if you, when you're doing, the left, right, up, left, right, doing the thing to try and move them through the little maze, if you let up just once, you hit the bumper, back up into a red sphere, and you're done.
You didn't have to make them coins, did you? Or did you just had to convert them all to red, right?
Yes,
You had to convert them all,
but sometimes
but
they
in order
would
to
go.
get the perfect, you'd have to get all the rings.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
I don't
and-
remember ever doing the coin things. I just seen the video now. It's like, whoa, you can make them coins. I don't think I ever figured that one out.
And some of the special stages, I don't think they did turn into coins. Like maybe some of the later ones, because they wanted to give you, more red spheres to try and avoid.
Well, there were some where they had rings just laid out,
Yeah.
but you still had to convert some if you want to
Mhm.
get the perfect.
I don't think I ever got it perfect then. I was able to convert them, the blues to reds in most of them, but I don't think I ever realized the mechanic of turning the balls into coins or rings.
Yeah. This one also added a expanded multiplayer with the 2-player co-op. Because this one, not only can the second person come in and control Tails, but they can manually fly. And when you're flying, the first player can jump up and Tails will grab him, and you can actually fly Sonic up and around over obstacles. So it definitely took the co-op to sort of a new level, which is pretty cool.
Oh, this bonus stage. The
Pinball
giant
machine.
gumball machine of doom.
Yeah, get all kinds
Oh,
of
all the
power-ups.
superpowers you could get.
Yeah, this one was sort of cool. They had all the themed powers, so instead of just having the blue shield, like in the previous one, you had like a bubble shield that would let you sort of bounce like a bubble and breathe underwater, which was invaluable in water stages.
You had the fire one, which you could just walk through fire or walk on solid lava.
Yeah, and plus if you did, because this one added Sonic's new sort of double jump type mechanic, where he didn't really do a double jump, but he would do a little quick flash. So that would be sort of an attack. He'd like sort of spin twice when he jumped.
That was
that
his
the
like
spark-
instant shield.
Spark thing?
Yeah, his little
I
instant
think they
shield
called it the
spark.
split-second shield.
Yeah, and on the fireball, if you did that double jump thing, he would blaze forward in a ball of fire. And there was a lightning one that would magnetically attract all rings nearby you. And that one actually
That was
gave,
my favorite.
yeah, that one actually gave him a true double jump.
You did.
And that one actually that would actually deflect certain projectiles.
Mm-hmm. spikes, like
Yeah, they just bounce
a lot
right
of
off
spikes
ya.
it would bounce off of. Yeah, it was pretty good.
All right, well, moving on to kind of the expansion to this game. Sonic and Knuckles was another one that was kind of ahead of its time, in a way.
Sonic and Knuckles was the first cartridge game where you could actually insert another cartridge into the top of it and combine the effects.
Yeah.
The original intention was to make it a sequel to Sonic 3, and a true sequel at that, where when you completed Sonic 3, you could pick up Sonic and Knuckles right where it left off. However, if you plugged both of them in together, you could play from the beginning of Sonic 3, goes directly into Sonic and Knuckles with a little bit of extra added stuff, and then there was actually an extended play period at the end of Sonic and Knuckles. There were extra levels you could play at the end of that, and then they did something cool with the Chaos Emeralds too. One of the zones, the the
Hidden Palace Zone.
Hidden Palace Zone, that's the one. Hidden Palace Zone actually had a section of it where whenever you started the Sonic and Knuckles portion of the game and you jumped through one of the giant rings, at that point in the game they began to flash. And as soon as you go through the first one, your Chaos Emeralds get taken from you and they get transformed into these Super Emeralds that get beamed back down into like this giant structure. And what you could do is you could choose what order you got the 7 Super Emeralds in, and then once you got all 7 of those, you became not supersonic, but hypersonic. And hypersonic was even faster, even blinkier, and he was almost utterly impossible to control.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got that far. I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
that sounds pretty intense.
Oh my god, it's great. It's so much fun.
Where did they come up with these names? Hypersonic, supersonic? I don't get it.
That's what they have marketing people for. You know, marketing people are so smart.
Yeah, they just went into a little dictionary and said, what would make Sonic better? Because they can't call him, better Sonic.
How about
Awesome
Ultra
Sonic.
Mega Sonic?
Super ultra mega.
Really
Sonic.
fast Sonic. Are you there? Genius name.
I'm a problem solver.
Subsonic.
There you go. This one also had it added the new playable character Knuckles, which
Knuckles the Echidna. What is with these weird frickin' animals that they use?
yeah, I don't know. You have a hedgehog. I mean, you have a fox, which a fox is a little more believable, but you have hedgehogs and echidnas. But at least
And, like,
Knuckles was pretty cool.
But Knuckles had like this dreadlock thing going on too.
Yeah.
That's what his looked like. He looked like he had dreadlocks. It was so weird.
Wait a minute, Echidna?
Echidna,
real
yeah,
animal?
kind of like a
Yeah,
hedgehog, but
it's
not.
actually a real animal. I did look it up at one point 'cause I thought it was just
Okay.
something they made up.
No,
I
it's-
was always looking for Ron Jeremy.
That is entirely possible.
But actually, I think I liked playing as Knuckles better than Sonic, because you could, you could instead of having a sort of a double jump quick shield thing, you could actually glide, and then when you could stick to a wall and actually climb up it. So,
Oh yeah, and then there were certain areas in the game where he could just walk through, and he'd just walk right through the wall, like he just
Yeah.
destroy the wall with his fists.
Yeah.
Sonic couldn't do anything.
Yeah, Sonic either couldn't even go through it because it's solid rock, or he'd have to try and spin dash. But Knuckles, he just sort of waltzes through with his big, huge spiked fists and bowls it over. But this one and Sonic 3, I think, were actually planned as a one game at one point.
I think I'd almost be willing to wager that. But you got to think, if to split them up was an afterthought. I mean, look at the technology that they really created to do that. It was some serious innovation that they had going at that time.
Well, yeah, and even because you plug Sonic 3 on top of Sonic and Knuckles, and you basically...
And you could play the whole extended version.
Yeah, and you could play it as Knuckles. You could play through Sonic 3 with Knuckles. You could play through with Sonic and Tails, because in Sonic and Knuckles, you lose Tails for some reason.
Then you could stick Sonic 2 inside of Sonic and Knuckles, and what that would do is you would go through the entirety of Sonic 2 the way it was in all of its graphical glory, except you'd play as Knuckles instead.
And you still got to glide, and I think could he still climb on walls, or did they?
Yes, you could still climb on walls.
Okay, I don't remember if they removed that. There was also another super secret thing you could do if you plugged Sonic 1 onto Sonic and Knuckles.
Or any other Sega game into it.
And it would give you that screen of all the characters sort of waggling their finger at you and saying, no way, no way. But then if you entered the proper button combination, it would activate a special mode where all you did is play those spherical special stages. And you just play one after the other. So that was sort of a neat little hidden feature.
Man, this was... Sonic 3 and Knuckles were by far... Together, I mean, I loved each one of them individually, but together, hands down, my favorite Sonic game of all time.
Yeah, I think it even beats out Sonic CD, which is one of my favorites.
About Sonic 2.
Yeah, I gotta take it over Sonic 2.
Yeah, over Sonic 2.
Was...
Sonic 2, the biggest thing it has going for it is the number of improvements and the nostalgia factor. But as far as being a still incredible game even today, Sonic 3 and Knuckles blows Sonic 2.
And you look at Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and then you look at Sonic 1, and it's like, man, these were on the same system?
Yeah, the graphics, they improved the graphics
tremendously.
Incredible. And the sound had a lot more techno synth, sort of, I don't know, almost soundtrack. Not quite the soundtrack quality of Sonic CD. And you have all the different power-ups, you different characters, and Sonic and Knuckles even had sort of alternate versions, alternate bosses. Because if you play as Sonic on Sonic and Knuckles, you fought Dr. Robotnik or Eggman. If you played as Knuckles, you fought as this Egg Robo, which is basically the metal version of Eggman.
Here we go. Sonic, the original Sonic the Hedgehog, was a 4 megabit cartridge. Sonic 2 was... I think it was 8. It was either a 4 or an 8.
So then they would have doubled it on Sonic 2.
It was an 8 megabit cartridge. And then Sonic 3 was a 16 megabit cartridge. But I think Sonic and Knuckles... Was it another? Yeah, it was 16, which is why it was the game... If you played Sonic and Knuckles by itself, you notice the game is shorter than Sonic 3. Just by a little. But they had to throw in the extra code to handle the combination of the two games and the addition of all the, other features.
But together, they were more than Sonic 1 and 2 combined.
Together, I mean, it's really 32 megabits of data if you put 3 and Knuckles together.
Yeah, back then, how many megabits was Super Metroid?
I think Super Metroid was a 16 megabit. Here, I'll look.
I think I remember from our Metroid episode.
I'm fairly certain it was it was 16. The Wikipedia says nothing. The Wikipedia is useless. Here, speaking of the Wikipedia and its usefulness, let me put up real quick. Because apparently I can't share my screen. There we go. Can you guys
Yep.
see that?
Yep. Yep.
There is the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 locked in to Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah, it sure made one heck of a cartridge stack, especially if you put a Game Genie underneath it.
Oh man, putting a Game Genie
Towering.
underneath that would be insanity. I wouldn't even try that.
I did that
Not even at
once.
home.
Yeah, I actually did that once. I don't think there were any codes for it or anything.
You just had to do it. It was like a challenge.
Yeah, the Leaning Tower of Genesis. Alright, well, we would move on to the next game, but unfortunately...
Zack's our next game.
Yes, unfortunately, my computer is a little stuck.
All right, Zack, start running around the room really fast and collect rings.
You guys are gonna have to look at my Windows phone. You guys are gonna have to
Okay.
stare at it.
Or you could find a picture of a Game Gear, and so Joel could see what that thing looked like.
Oh yeah, let me do that real quick.
While you're still on camera, my computer is still computing.
Your computer is still computing.
Yes.
That's a desired result, I would say. All right. Here we are, gentlemen. The Game Gear.
Ah, yeah,
Oh.
I remember this.
And you remember this thing was huge too. Let's see, is there another? There it is. Look how thick that thing is.
I know, that thing was massive. I had a lunchbox, and it took up most of the lunchbox.
It's insane.
I remember that now.
Yeah, that was, and the battery that went through was... Alright, well, okay, now that my computer is back up,
Yay, now we don't have to look at me anymore.
yes, now we can go on to I believe this is a Game Gear exclusive, Sonic Triple Trouble, which was kind of the Game Gear's version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, in a way. It had sort of the same concept and same characters, it was just a completely different game. And I think once again you could play as Sonic and Tails. And this, I forgot to mention this on Sonic Chaos, but in the Game Gear versions and the Master System, but on Sonic Chaos and Sonic Triple Trouble, you had additional moves. I think if you pressed up and the jump button, Sonic would charge up this little peel out move where he would run forward for a second and he would be like invincible while he's running forward. And Tails, of course, doing that would allow you to fly. Yeah, this one was much better than Sonic Chaos. Definitely more polished and not quite sort of a... It's more of a full game.
It looks so much the same. I guess there's only so much you can do with that screen real estate in that system, but still, it just looks so...
The colors are a little brighter than I think they were in Sonic Chaos.
I think after
Yeah.
seeing, Sonic 3 and all those fancy games, then going back to this Game Gear game, it's quite the contrast.
Well, it's an 8-bit system.
Right, but I think that's why it's, catching us.
Yeah.
Looking so
Otherwise,
poorly at the
gameplay-wise, Triple Trouble was not quite as good as Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but It was probably at least comparable to Sonic 2 and Sonic 1. And I think it was quite a bit longer than Sonic Chaos.
Blasted 8-bit system.
Hey, come on, it's retro.
It is retro.
And it's better than Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
It still
give you
beats out
that.
the Nintendo. Alright, well, should we move on to... I think this is... I don't know what else we could really say about this one. It's
Nothing. It's
it's another 8-bit
kind
Sonic
of boring.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, incrementally better, it's still more of the same. Next we have, I think, the last Sonic game on the Game Gear.
Oh, thank
Anyway.
God.
This is the last Sonic game on the Game Gear, which tried to pull off a Donkey Kong Country Vector Man thing with those with those fancy 3D pre-rendered graphics, and is sort of the counterpart to Sonic and Knuckles, because you can play as Sonic or Knuckles. Unfortunately, they kind of failed on this one, I think.
Yeah, they failed on this one, but they did better later.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's sort of a trippy look.
It's very
Yeah.
glossy.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm not...
look, that doesn't look very good.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the graphics. I mean, they're sort of pretty, but that at the expense of the backgrounds being kind of bland and the Sonic and Knuckles looking like Play-Doh. And
And it doesn't
gonna be
rotate
Sonic.
smoothly.
yes.
You know, I can understand if you do, for example, if you take a Super NES game and try to apply next-gen, like Nintendo 64 graphics to it, like the Donkey Kong Country equation. That's
Or
fine.
even
That's
Star
a single
Fox.
step up. But this is trying to skip the 16-bit and go straight to the 32-bit set, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, Sonic ended up, or in Sonic and Knuckles, the character sprites ended up being huge, and all the enemies were like little tiny. And I also think the controls were a little off on this one. I think they seemed a little sloppier to me. Oh, and the special stage was awful.
Oh, I know. We'll talk about sloppy controls next time, because I know we've got part 2 of this episode coming. But
Yeah.
you know, you want to talk about bad controls? Don't even get me started on the most recent episode of this entire saga.
Yeah, so I think this... I don't know if we can pile any more complaints onto this one.
No, I think it overall just sucks.
Yeah, this is a lame
It
leftover.
looks like it. Looks like I wasn't missing out much of this one.
No. Alright, next, our last game would be Sonic's early move to 3D-ish, kinda.
And I had this game,
Yeah, so did
and I'll
I.
be honest, I loved this game.
Yeah,
I did play this game a bit, and it was pretty fun.
It
Yeah.
was different. The controls were a little off because you had to go in diagonals instead of, you know, up, downs, left, and rights.
Yeah, because it was that 3D isometric thing, so you were looking up, you were looking down on Sonic at an angle, and it was a cool game. I just had a hard time controlling it because of the diagonals.
And there was actually a pretty cool storyline to it too. You know, and for once it wasn't just like, you know, random little animals. It was these actual birds, the flickies, and they actually had a purpose, and they were actually mythical creatures that could travel through the rings, and you had to use
Yeah.
them to travel through the rings to get to the next level. It was cool.
Yeah, and I think they actually had kind of their own spin-off game called Flicky.
I think you're right.
But yeah, the graphics on this were actually kind of impressive for a Sega Genesis.
Like, and you look at it and you think, you know, I mean, this could have been pre-rendered, but it's almost like you can't think of it. That's a lot of pre-rendering if it is.
Yeah, that would be. You have to pre-render everything.
I think it's just like some kind of like tiled isometric view going on.
Yeah, and this
But
one
the
was
tiles are pre-rendered.
and this one was actually re-released because it was originally released on the Sega Genesis. Then they re-released it for the Sega Saturn, which I think that was Sega's 64-bit system.
Yeah.
And while I never actually played that one, it was actually, I think, a fairly substantial improvement over the Genesis one, even though it took them like what, 7 months to port it from the Genesis to the Saturn.
Yeah.
I think I spliced in some footage of the Saturn one in here somewhere. I got the Genesis one going on now.
Oh, no, the Saturn was only 32-bit.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because you got to remember the Saturn was. Let's see. Let me take a look at something here. Yeah, the Saturn was 32-bit.
So then Sega didn't really have a 64-bit.
Um.
They jumped straight to the whatever 128-bit of the Dreamcast and GameCube and.
Yeah, because that's right, and that was a point of contention between them and Nintendo for a while. Because Nintendo went from the 16-bit system straight up to the 64.
And then Sega went from 16
the 32
to 32
all the way up to the 128.
Yeah, the Saturn one, actually they, I can find it here. They actually improved the graphics a bit. Go a little further. I hear the
Yeah, it is.
that's still the Genesis actually.
Wow.
But still pretty impressive. Here is the Saturn. Which one of the biggest improvements, to me, I'm sort of a sucker for video game soundtracks. But this one, the soundtrack is worlds better than the Genesis version. It's like full-on epic, orchestrated CD quality music. I actually have the soundtrack to this one. And I think it was actually, I think I've heard it's easier to control on the Saturn because they had the more of a analog stick type control pad.
Yeah.
So the controls were improved a bit. And they completely revamped the special stage so it's a full-on like 64-bit 3D stage. But yeah, they improved the graphics a little bit, added some little touches here and there, some extra sound effects, and improved.
You can see the bridge, like,
Yeah.
gave a little bit.
And sort of creaked. Yeah, I don't know how well you can hear the audio on this one, but comparing the sound, this music on this one to the Genesis version.
There's something almost Nintendo 64-ish about the sound.
Yeah, I think it's even more apparent when we go to, oh yeah, there's your 3D special stage.
Oh, now see, we didn't have this in the Genesis version.
No, you had that sort of pseudo 3D running along a bridge type over this pit of molten something. This, they basically took the special stage from Sonic 2 and gave it a full-on 3D polygonal facelift.
They even kept sort of the same music theme too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Move on a little bit. I think next. Yeah, this is one of my. This is back to the Genesis version, just so you can hear the soundtrack and sort of get a feel for the graphics.
I loved the music in this game.
And the Genesis one,
Yeah.
that's nothing compared to the Saturn one.
No, but you got to remember, I'm nostalgic like that.
Yeah. So now here's the Saturn one.
Got some bass to it.
Yeah, even some vocals in there.
Vocals.
Yeah, didn't you hear the beginning? A little chorus of whoa.
Ah, okay, I gotcha. It's kind of quiet on my end, so I didn't really hear it, but
Yeah, it's sort of interspersed throughout it. It's supposed to be sort of, that haunting, ancient style. I think there was another. Yeah, here's the volcano level, which sort of sounds like something from Sonic 3 or Sonic Knuckles. And if we move a bit to Saturn.
Well, his jumping just sounds the same.
Yeah, but the actual the music, you're supposed to be paying attention to the music.
Oh.
yeah, I'll give it to you. The music definitely sounds better.
Yeah, especially some of them, they pull out all the stops with the orchestra and sounding the songs. Some of them even sound like something out of a movie, some action drama.
Sonic 3D Blast, the movie.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. All right, should we move? Actually, I was mistaken. This is not our last game. We have one more handheld to go over.
Boo, handheld.
Are we back to the Game Gear?
No, this is actually one of the first non-Sega.
Sega.
This was done for the Neo Geo Pocket. Oh.
What?
Yep,
Neo Geo Pocket.
Yes, sir.
All I remember is Neo Geo, the big arcade there, with all those games you could select.
No,
And then
man,
they
Neo
had a pocket
Geo
version.
they had a home console. They had a portable console. It was awesome.
yeah. The Sonic game. Did you play the Sonic Pocket Adventure much, Zach?
No, I never actually had a Neo Geo. I didn't know anyone that had a Neo Geo Pocket.
Yeah, me neither.
I
But
didn't know they existed.
yeah, I found this and was playing it, and it's basically a direct rip-off of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with a little bit of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 thrown in, with the with a few music tracks from Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
So a mashup.
Yeah, it's not really. I mean, it's sort of an original game, but not really.
It's an originally ripped off game.
Yeah, like here, the special stage. That is identical to the Sonic 2. And the graphics actually look like if Sonic had come out on the Game Boy Color, it would have looked like this. Because how many bits was the Neo Geo Pocket?
The Neo Geo Pocket Color that this was on was.
Because it definitely doesn't seem to have the polish of the Game Gear. I mean, it's brighter and more vibrant, but it sort of has a more flat.
Actually, it's a 16-bit.
Really?
Yeah, matter of
It
fact.
looks like it has a higher resolution, anyway.
Yeah.
Get this. The Neo Geo Pocket Color is actually a 6th generation era device because it wasn't released until 1999.
Oh yeah, you're right.
The North American version of the Neo Geo Pocket Color had an exclusive launch on the website eToys in 1999. eToys also sold the initial launch titles in the preferred plastic snap block cases. The system debuted in the United States with 6 launch titles, 20 promised by the end of the year, and a retail price of $69.95. Oh, no wonder it was cheap.
Yeah, I'm surprised this thing that's actually 16 bits crammed in there.
And $70, that is cheap.
Yeah, even
Neo
nowadays.
Geo was like, what, $200 or something?
Yeah.
Or, I mean,
well, even the Game Gear, when it first came out, was $150.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here.
Yeah, so this is a interesting game. I haven't gotten through it too much, but the worst thing about it I found, other than the graphics being looking at least a little primitive, but it feels too much like Sonic 2. Just when you're playing through the levels, they're like almost identical to Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
The Neo Geo Pocket Color is actually the same generation as the Game Boy Advance. No wonder it didn't take off.
Yeah, I think there is no comparison between this and the Game Boy Advance.
No, absolutely not.
This looked like a late generation Game Boy Color game.
At best.
Yeah. I even think the Game Gear looks better than this.
Yeah, it really does.
But then it was only $80, so.
Yeah, I guess you get what you pay for.
Uh-huh. Alright, I don't know if we want to touch on Sonic Jam, that compilation. It's not really an actual Sonic game, as it is a collection of old Sonic games.
Well, there's been a few of those.
Yeah, this is the one that sort of stuck out to me because it had a little 3D overworld where you could go to the various museum things to look at artwork and stuff. Otherwise, the rest of it was just you played Sonic 1, 2, 3, or Knuckles. But it's had this 3D world, you could explore as Sonic. Which was basically just a fancy way for them to navigate around menus. Alright, well...
just out of curiosity, what was the point of the rings in the navigation world?
I think you could unlock special features.
Yeah, it was just sort of a pointless little way for you to navigate the little bonus items. It wasn't an actual game, per se.
Alright, just curious.
It's a little weird. Alright, well, we are running a little long. I wasn't sure how this was going to end with 3D Blast, since that's one of the sort of the black eyes in Sonic. And with the Neo Geo, I don't know if we wanted to see if we could end on a higher note. But I do have a secret game in our lineup.
Uh-oh.
Dun 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 dun.
That
Secret game for the win.
Sonic Supermarket?
Close. Oh my god, I love Sonic Spinball.
yeah, I know. It mashed up pinball and platforming.
Oh, this was great. Hold on one second. I'll be right back.
I never played this one. I saw some video of it. I never got around to playing it, but I assume it was like Casino Act Zone, where it has that pinball aspect to it, but they expanded on that, I assume.
A lot more than that.
Wasn't there a Sonic driving game as well?
Yeah, that was like Sonic Drift for the Game Gear. But yeah, I thought about throwing those other Sonic games in there, but I think we would have run out of time. So I tried to just do the Sonic platformers, which this barely fits in the line of Sonic platformers.
Gentlemen, I present to you one of the last remaining copies of Sonic Spinball.
You actually got it.
I have this game. I was wanting this game since I was like 6.
See, I actually had it sometime back then. I don't remember when I had it. There was at one point when I owned pretty much every Genesis Sonic game there was.
I love this game.
That's pretty impressive. I'm impressed.
Yeah, because the other cool thing about this is, aside from it's a pinball game, but it actually added a platforming aspect, so you could actually control Sonic as you're flipping him through all the different areas. Oh no, I did not know that. Did you guys just see that?
Yeah.
He paddled his way on that oil barrel for a shortcut to the Chaos Emerald.
Oh yeah. And this was only an 8 meg cartridge.
Wow.
And this thing was running with the same power as Sonic 2.
Yeah, and the graphics actually look better. And there's actually quite a few levels, and the pinball stages were almost huge.
And this is one of only 2 games that actually had characters from the Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, and the comics, the Sonic the
Yes.
Hedgehog comics.
This and Mean Bean Machine were the only 2 that had characters from the comics and the Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, I remember that because it had some. Oh, what was it? In the bonus stage or whatever, you would rescue, like Princess Sally and Walrus Guy and what was the Antoine, the stuck-up little fox.
Yep.
Or ferret or whatever he was.
Where the hell they were.
Yeah, this is a cool game, and they even ported it to the Game Gear. I don't think I ever had that one, but basically a much more simplified version of Spinball.
And this game is available. It's available all over the place as part of the different like Sonic Mega collections and Genesis Ultimate collections and things like that. But this is one of the rare games that's actually available for the iPhone and the iPod Touch.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think, can you also get it on? Cause obviously, you can get it on Nintendo's Virtual Console. I'm pretty positive.
Actually, I don't think you can.
Did they not release this one yet?
Yes, they did. I'm sorry. You're
Okay.
right. You're right.
So I thought they had all the Sonic games on there.
Yeah, Spinball was released in Virtual Console, but it's also available actually right before this past Christmas. So about 6 months now.
Cool.
For iPod Touch and iPhone.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite pinball games of all time. So one of the few where you actually have some control over the ball. All right, well, does that wrap us up then?
I think we can end this on a very high note.
Yes.
Spinball looks good.
Spinball is definitely a retro hot dish. Well, this was only part 1 of our epic Sonic coverage, because they're even restricting myself just to Sonic platformers. There are a ton of Sonic games.
Yeah, but the next one's going to be a very sad episode. I think we're going to cry the whole way through it.
Yeah, there might be a ray of hope at the end, but yeah, this is all the really good games. next time is going to be more lame leftovers. So if you want to know what to avoid, watch our next episode, or part 2 of.
Gonna be a pretty smelly refrigerator. The next episode.
Yeah.
The next episode is going to be the "Don't waste your money on this crap" episode.
Exactly.
When good Sonics go bad.
Yeah.
No, when bad Sonics get released.
Yes, the fall of a hedgehog.
The fall of a hedgehog. I like it.
All right. Well, if you want to subscribe to this or find more about the show and watch it live and read more reviews on retro games, I have no idea what Jeremy is doing.
Well, I'm just sitting watching your show. Nothing's going on.
He
Wait,
looks
there's
like
a
What are you guys
show?
talking about?
he looks like he's in a special stage from Sonic 3. The world just keeps tilting around and around.
What? Whoa. What?
I'm dancing. You'd be able
What
to see that
is-
in my video work.
What is going on? Whoa. might have to do something about this.
All right, we'll have to fix that after the show.
Yeah, I'll go deal with this and hopefully be available. Alright.
You know what I think we'll do next week? Next week, since we're covering all the really bad Sonic games,
Well-
instead of putting myself on camera, I'm gonna flip the camera around, and over there on the TV, we're gonna watch. We're gonna have a spinball cam going on, so I'm gonna play this
Oh, there you
on that
go.
console on that TV.
There you go.
It'll be the spinball cam.
All right, well, you can find more about the show on Retro Games Forever, or follow me on Twitter at JoshuaCaleb75. Where would people want to find all you guys on the internets?
www.fruit.com, spelled PHR00T. I got all my links to my Android games, and I even have a Sonic-like Android game called Droid Dash. I admit it's no Sonic the Hedgehog, but it's got some of the elements there. You know, you get the running, the loops, and the jumps, and
Yeah, a little Sonic the
Stars.
Hedgehog
Little
mixed with a little
Sonic.
fancy
Little
pants
Sonic.
adventure.
yeah.
And
So find me there.
how about you, Zach?
You can actually go to about.me/Z_Williamson, and there you'll find my Twitter, my Facebook, my LinkedIn, and my Flickr that I pay for and don't use.
All right, Joel. Where would people want to find you on the internet?
I can be found lurking on Twitter at Hobbit from PA, and pretty much anywhere else at Hobbit from PA.
Yeah, I'm pretty much Joshua Caleb 75 everywhere. Occasionally I'll snag Joshua Caleb, but other than that, thank you all for watching, and see you next time in the past.
You can fly, you can reach the other side of the rainbow. So right, take a chance, 'cause there is no circumstance that you can handle.
slight programming note. We probably won't have a show next week because I think it's going to take me 2 weeks to come up with the next episode. And I was actually... I may actually have to start doing these every other week. So things are getting a little crazy around here.
Busy man.
Yeah, with my
What's
job.
going on? Your new airline company you're starting? That's gonna take up a lot of
Yeah,
your time.
there's that too. Trying to get some freelance work done. I want to work on my books more. My sequel to Warped and Wired.
Ooh.
Trying to get that going on, so I may need 2 weeks to prepare for each show.
A cat.
There was a cat.
I saw
She goes
a
over there.
cat.